Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Unavoidable Adventures in Aging, where Sue and Shan, two Midwest, well-past middle-aged sisters, discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of aging. With a little humor, a little heart, and occasionally a little frustration, we'll explore the unavoidable adventures we experience as we move into our golden years. Yeah, golden years, my ass. Just a note to our listeners, this podcast reflects the opinions and experiences of Sue and Shan. The main purpose of this podcast is intended to entertain. And this really, 72,000?
Because they're counting the benefits.
Oh.
When you do that. So we're doing a little record. Let's do a little record.
Oh, okay.
Just talk into that.
Okay.
Let's make sure.
All right.
Sometimes you start talking about all this and I'm like, no, we need to be recording the whole thing because it's great. But you're fine.
Yeah.
So just talk in just a little bit.
Because then I think I've already said that, so I won't say it again.
That's what I worry about.
Yeah, I know. We're just getting started, but hey, it's been
a long time.
I know. I haven't seen you for a couple weeks.
I know.
We need to catch up with the drinking and the episode, and hopefully the episode will go fine because we're trying to catch up
on drinking
and talking,
which
definitely
we do that
talking.
a lot.
Yes. All right. I thought you were going up the stairs to get
another beer. No, I just had to get a piece of paper, so I did ready. Okay, I'm ready.
So you can write down ideas as you're thinking of them.
As I'm thinking of them.
Because you won't remember them if you don't.
No, I won't at all.
Yes.
But yeah, good to be back. You and I haven't seen each other for almost 2 weeks, which is unheard of.
I just said that. You weren't listening. Whoops. You were thinking about that paper and your beer. But yeah.
I was thinking about the beer. But yeah.
I was. Okay. All right. So
wait.
What?
Can I start with unfinished business?
Oh, yes, because I've got some too. Did I write it down? Go ahead.
2 weeks ago, I think it would be now, we did an episode, The Funeral.
Uh-huh.
And lo and behold, AARP magazine.
Really?
And it's the one that has Drew Barrymore.
I know, right? She was the E.T. little girl.
She's that little girl.
Oh, my golly.
She's an AARP member now.
Good for her.
Okay, page 34 in case they really care. But
okay.
Write your own obituary.
I think we should.
I do too. And on this little article, they talk about... So they talk about a lot of things and consider this and consider your audience. Start with your epitaph,
Is it epitaph or go ahead. Never mind.
I'm going with what you said. We really haven't drank that much. We just haven't been together.
Haven't. Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
But this woman she's having a get together of her friends at a cabin for the weekend, and they're writing their obituaries.
Oh, how fun is that?
I know. Oh. I'm challenging everybody, have a
girls'
obituary
weekend.
writing party.
Yeah.
But like we said, I think in the funeral, we never could find Tim's mom's.
Right.
Although he was sure she had written one and she had told him, and we could never find it. So if you write your own, make sure that maybe several people have a copy.
Everybody at that party has a copy. Oh, what a fun idea.
We're going to do that, aren't we?
Yes.
I can see it in your eyes.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. Definitely we are.
Have an obituary writing weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
And they talked about a woman that put a few things in there that she hadn't ever done, but she thought maybe that would help her get it done.
So you just make stuff up?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There
we go.
That's on the list, yes. And my unfinished business is when we were doing the last episode on surviving the storm, and I'd mentioned that group that did the 50-51.
Oh, yes.
And I said it was 50 protests in 50 states in one day. It was 50 protests, 50 states on one topic.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Oh, yeah, because that would be really hard to coordinate with everybody. So whatever your main grudge is, or there's just too many. But anyway, so if you're planning one, and I thought, how would we go about doing that here?
I don't know.
That's something we're going to have to talk about.
Okay.
Because I know a few people who would be interested. Yeah.
After we have our girls' weekend of writing our obituaries?
Yes, because we could put that in our obituary.
Oh, my gosh, we could. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Let a protest for da-da-da-da-da.
For whatever. Okay, sounds good. Plus, it has to get a whole lot warmer.
Not true. We will not go out in this temp.
Oh my God. We're in, like we've said many times, western Nebraska. And for 3 days, I don't think it got above 0.
Correct.
And with the wind chill, it was minus 30, minus 40.
We had a temperature of minus 30.
Did we really?
That wasn't even the wind chill factor.
Yeah.
I think it was, or minus 27, who's counting at that point. No, we had.
It was cold.
It
That's
was
all
cold.
I know.
School was called off.
Yeah,
and
I had a couple days off. Didn't complain about that. But having to go back,
then you started
it's really hard. Yeah, it was. But I made it. And like tomorrow, Monday or whatever, it's supposed to be 60-some degrees.
Yes,
so
it is. All
we
week.
go from minus 30 to 60 degrees in 1 week. That's us here.
That's us. Okay, now we can get on our topic for this week.
We can get to our topic, and this is thanks to we're asking people to send us ideas, and this was an idea from Alan. That's Shan's brother-in-law, Tim's, both your brother-in-laws.
Yeah, brother-in-laws.
Because Janet's his sister. So anyway, so he said how, and we talked about this, and we just never got around to really developing it. Yeah. But how jobs have changed over the years. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And the first part of that is just salaries in general. Of course, there's inflation, there's cost of living, so you know it's going to be different.
Right.
But I went back to 1980 because that was probably about the time we were both in the workforce.
Yes.
Not doing part-time, whatever.
Right.
And your first job wasn't in education, though, was it?
No, No, my first job was at the Buttercup.
Oh, that's right.
That Mom and a guy owned. It was a retail store downtown. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I've had a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
I was a teacher aide at a country school. I'm going to lose. And then I worked up at one of the medical clinics.
Oh, yeah.
And then I taught for 2 years GED at the county jail.
Okay, that's right.
And then from that one came then my permanent job at the high school.
And I, too, did a lot of different things before I really started teaching full-time. Even though I graduated from college in 76, I didn't have my first teaching job until 84, 85. Yep. Because I got out of college and I thought, I don't know if I want to be a teacher.
I know it, right?
Anyway, lots of background there. So my first teaching job, like I said, was in around 1984. My first teacher contract was for $9,000 a year. $9,000.
$9,000.
And that's when I worked in and I did love this part of it. It was a little one-room country schoolhouse out in ranch country. Yeah. I lived in an old hired hand's house, Scotty and I, because he was just a year old at the time. And it was a very little house on the prairie. Yeah. Kindergarten through 8th grade, all in one room. And throughout the day, I taught all of them.
Yeah, and boy, if some people won't know what we're talking about, but the kids do their work. They know each other beyond belief well.
Yeah.
And the parents are involved, and they're there for you.
In a positive way.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was very beneficial to, all ages. I had a 3rd grader who would listen to the 8th graders' lessons.
Wow.
And then when I had the 8th graders back up at the table for questioning their lessons, she was sitting right there. And if they couldn't answer a question, she did.
She was doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
She was, yeah. And then the older ones had the ability to work with the younger ones to help them out and tutor. And it was a very community within the school.
It was.
We didn't have a janitor. The kids would sweep the mudroom.
Oh, my gosh, you're right.
And we would vacuum the floor and wash down the chalkboards and because when I was a teacher aide, it was at a country school. And so did you play softball a lot out there? We played a lot of softball and kickball. Yeah, we didn't. I don't know so much softball. We did a lot of kickball. We did, in the fall when the big tumbleweeds.
Oh, yes.
They were as big as a kindergarten.
Yeah.
and they would do tumbleweed tackling. These huge things would come rolling through the playground, and these little kids would go, ah, and dive into
like a calf roping.
Yeah,
but,
really. Yeah. I had one kid who would ride his horse to school every once in a while.
You really did?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't have that.
Cattle drives that would come down the road and run around the school before they got up to the next. But
pasture.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that was how I started in education.
$9,000
a year. Yes. Yeah. And then I'm seeing now that at least in around this area in Alliance, the average is about 44. But like you were bringing up,
a couple things. When you see those numbers, most often it includes everything. So it's also the Social Security part that the school pays, and that's considered part of your salary. And of course, the biggie that's happened is health insurance.
I know.
That's a couple $1,000 a month anymore. So that one is huge, whether the employee has to pay for most of it or the employer does. But yeah, that's a big part.
Because that used to be all-inclusive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't think when that stopped for sure, but yeah.
Yeah, there was a time where they didn't even consider that as a perk. Yeah. It was expected of the employer.
Right,
And
to
you had
provide
health insurance.
Your health insurance.
Yeah, family help.
Yeah. So that, of course, the salaries have changed a lot. Do you remember what you first started making when you got to the high school?
When I first started at the high school, I was in an awkward situation. I was considered full-time, so I'm not a certified teacher. So my job was, though, full-time, which included family health insurance. Oh. So that's how we worked. We took my health insurance because it was a much better price. Uh-huh. So what I made, I'm not sure. I should have looked it up. But then at some point, health insurance started getting more expensive.
Sure.
And so the employee had to pay for part of their health insurance. So what happened with me, and there weren't very many of us in this realm of things, they increased my hourly wage to cover the health insurance.
Sure.
So my hourly wage was pretty good. Yeah. And then after a while, we took Tim's health insurance. So it was almost, and then they did that too. They went to a cash benefit.
Yeah.
It's so crazy, isn't it? It's so crazy. So when you think about it, you have a husband and a wife. They both are teachers.
Right.
Okay. They both had health insurance offered to them, but you only needed one because it was family insurance.
Right.
So that meant the spouse was actually making less money because they didn't have that perk.
Right.
So for us, and I don't know how other schools do it, they went to a cash benefit. So that you had cash if you didn't, they gave you cash to pay for your health insurance. If you didn't need it, it was a benefit and you just take that home.
And just got the money. Okay.
Got confusing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was grandfathered in.
Okay.
So I had a higher wage than most people did.
Okay.
So I'm sure when I decided to retire, they rejoiced.
Yeah.
For that reason only, not me. But,
it was you.
Yeah.
So
I honestly, I don't remember. But you were talking about minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
Yeah. Was it originally?
In about 1980. And
so
again,
again, about the time you and I were both out of college and starting to go on our own.
So this would have been like what you were making before you went to college.
Yeah.
We were talking about that too. Shan and Shelley and Scott all worked throughout high school.
All through high school. Yeah, we did.
I did not. I took the odd babysitting job. But even then, babysitting, I remember when I was babysitting, it was 50 cents an hour. And for a non-math person, it was so hard to figure out. But otherwise, minimum wage was $3.10.
$3.10.
And Nebraska, I think they just passed this not too long ago. But we are up to $13.50, I think.
And it will go to 15 pretty quick.
Okay, that's where the change is coming.
Yeah.
So minimum wage has improved somewhat. So
not
that's
enough, but yes. Okay.
No.
Because it used to be minimum wage was mainly for kids in high school.
Exactly.
Because that was another thing. We worked. It was very common that everybody in your grade, they had a part-time job. It didn't matter how active they were in the school.
Right.
They were still going to do a part-time job, even if they just worked on Saturdays.
Yes.
They were going to have a job. That was
Yeah.
just expected of you. Or you babysat. I didn't do a lot of babysitting, so
It was
did that.
hard.
Actually, it probably was.
It did. Some of those families.
That's probably why I went and
earned
got a
it.
job. I
Yeah,
didn't
probably.
want it.
I don't want to change diapers.
Yeah. But now so many people are part-time job trying to live off that.
Yes.
And it's so difficult.
Yes.
So
That
difficult.
is their family income.
Yeah. Yeah. And reason so many people have to work 2 jobs.
Exactly. Anyway, that's the background on like salaries. And then, oh, this is funny. I don't think she'll listen to my podcast, but we've got this young lady in our office, and she's, I don't know, 20 something. Yesterday, day before, whatever. We've got these old files that go back to the 80s. And so she was purging those, going through them, shredding things that didn't need to be there anymore. And she kept laughing about different things. And she said, "What is this?" And it was an application for employment, a paper application. She thought that was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. And I said, "Yeah, that used to be how you had to apply for jobs."
You did? Oh, my gosh.
And, I can't remember some of the other things she would laugh at. And just the comments like, "Oh, my God, this is from 1983.
Oh, my God. Forever ago.
Yeah.
When you say that about that paper application, I can remember I worked for Miller and Payne department stores. You did too.
Yeah, I did too.
And I worked, though, in the HR department. So we did payroll and the hiring and everything. So on the application, it asked for the woman's dress size and her weight.
Oh, my golly.
Yes. And
This would have been 70-something, right?
probably 1980.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Right.
1980.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would have been like
Yeah.
the summer of.
Oh, my
And
golly.
even then, I knew how wrong that was. And I took it to the head honcho and then to my supervisor. And they said, "Yeah, we're trying to work
It's a
on that."
little
'Cause it was still
outdated.
run by
Yeah.
the older
Sure.
Miller and Payne, those two.
Mr.
men.
Miller and
Yes,
Mr. Payne.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, I couldn't believe it.
Oh.
And I remember a woman coming up and filling out an application, and she
Okay.
got so mad she threw the application back at me.
I've-
She said, "This is illegal." And I thought, "Yeah, I know it is, honey. I agree with you."
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Your weight and your dress size.
Oh, my golly. Yeah. No, things thankfully have changed in that department.
I hope so. Yes.
Yeah. And then and this too, it's just an absence request. And you had to do everything in paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this was, and even
So
today.
if you had to be gone, you had to fill that paper out.
Right. Had to give them a reason and everything. And that's something with teaching. I don't care what job it is, but it used to drive me crazy that you got so many sick days and so many personal days.
Yes.
And you had to tell them all about what it was. And if you were gone for more than so many days, you had to have a doctor's note. And anymore, if you're sick and you feel well enough to go to work, if you call for an appointment, you're not going to get it for 2 months.
Yeah.
Why can't they all just be personal days?
Yes, I agree.
Take them the way you want them.
And I'm sure you were the same with us. We had those people that always used their sick days.
Huh?
I couldn't stand to
I
call
did-
my principal and say I'm
Yeah.
sick. I couldn't do it.
And I was never sick.
Yeah, you weren't.
So that was
You were always
another
healthy.
thing. Yeah.
But I thought I'm not going to call and lie.
Yeah.
So I can have a day off. So
Yeah.
I didn't take very
Didn't
many
take
sick
the sick
days.
days.
But you had those people. They used every sick day.
Yes. Oh,
and I
yeah.
thought, you little liars.
Oh, yeah. Really? Because I saw you down at the bar Friday night after you'd called in for Friday.
Yeah.
So just little
That's
things
funny.
like that. How
Yeah.
how jobs have changed. And when we start talking about these other jobs, I think one of the biggest things to think of is that they have changed because of technology.
Yes.
So we even think about teaching. And that's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I went into like substituting, I had a hard time because they had the smart boards and they had the kids all
yes.
had their own computers, and I had a hard time keeping up with
Because
what
of
it was they were
yes.
supposed to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And just the change of the role of teacher. And I've said this before. I am so glad that I taught when I did.
I
When administration and everything trusted you to know your job. Today, they've got their finger into everything. And you have to hand in your lesson plans and have the learning objective and the
agenda of what you're going to teach for that 45-minute period.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And the standards you were teaching that day.
Oh,
and
yes.
And it's, come on, just let me teach.
Yeah.
And I was just reading an article today about good teachers who are quitting because of these things. Mm-hmm. And one was that nobody trusts us as teachers to know what we have been educated to do. Mm-hmm. And it just, that drives me.
Yes, it's so true. And of course, I think we've said that, teaching to the standards.
Yes.
It's you teach to the test, you teach to the
yes.
There's no time for creativity. And it used to be creativity was what was fun
exactly
in teaching and fun for the student.
Because then that led them to discover things on their own.
Yes. Yeah.
Today, and then they don't hold on to that information. Mm-hmm. You can teach, they take the test, you can ask them a question 2 days later, they have no idea.
Yeah.
It's the knowledge is so temporary.
Yeah. And it's a lot of the technology.
Uh-huh.
And we're as guilty, somewhat.
Yeah.
I still know how to multiply, divide, add, subtract.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
And what answer should be correct. Yes. That's another one.
Yes.
You got to have an idea of what 9 times 7 is going to be.
It's not 4.
Yeah, exactly. If you put it into the computer wrong, that was a biggie. Uh-huh. Trying to teach kids how to use their calculator correctly.
Yes.
Parentheses make a difference.
Yes,
and
they do.
Mathematics, you got to watch those parentheses. You got to watch commas in English.
Right.
That kind of thing. But it's,
Is it a realistic answer? Because they'll put,
there you go.
Yeah, they'll put all that information into a calculator, hit equal, and whatever it says, that's what they write
it down. Yeah.
Without thinking, really?
Really? Can I do that?
I don't think that's right.
Shouldn't I have more dollars?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't want to be a teacher today, and bless you all who are, that you're keeping up with it. I don't know where that's going, but we'll try not to bring up a lot of politics.
Boy, sometimes we just bring ourselves down, don't we?
Don't we, though?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that the 2 professions that Alan had mentioned was farming and ranching.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did he discuss anything?
We talked about that. We just got back from a trip with them. And so we talked a lot about farming. And it used to be, not that we would remember that if you were going to plow a field, you did it with a horse and a pull behind.
That's
and you're
a
pushing
little
it.
before our time.
A little bit before our time. But what it wasn't before our time was when we were talking about tractors.
Just tractors.
That had no cab.
Right.
So you had no air conditioning.
Yeah.
You had no sun visor thing over the top of you. You had to pay attention. It was easy to break down. You're fixing the tractor at the end of the row, and then you got to get going again. And you got to watch your rows. You got to make sure they're straight.
Yes.
And that you're always parallel to the next section, that kind of thing. And then we talked about, Alan said something about he could remember the first cab. So now it's covered and it's glass and all that. And Tim was talking about the same thing, but they weren't air conditioned. So for us, we're talking 90-degree weather, and you're in this glass enclosed thing. So then they'd prop all the doors open. And Tim said, how many times they had to repair a door, because then the door would get hooked on something as they're going along, on a tree or whatever, and the door is broken off. So they had that. Then came air conditioning. So that was a huge deal. Then came the GPS tracking, where pretty much you're sitting in that cab.
Yeah.
It knows when to turn and come back down.
I remember the first time I saw a video on that, and I thought, really?
Yeah.
How cool.
And even like radios in there.
Sure.
Didn't have a radio.
Yeah.
And then maybe you had a radio, but you had to wear some kind of headset because you couldn't hear above the tractor.
Right.
Now those cabs are almost airtight and you can hear everything. So you're doing a big change in that. Ranching, again, the same thing around here, of course. We're in calving season, and so it doesn't matter
Coldest
if it's
time of the year.
30 below. They still have to go out and check on calves and pull calves and
I remember
all that
working with the goats. That
Yeah.
was milking, and it was but anyway, so
And
calves.
and that goat was saying, "Why are you doing this?
That's right.
I am
Explode
cold."
if you don't. Yeah.
Yeah, farming and ranching has changed just tremendously as to how you do it. And they can farm more acreage. It used to be farms were very small. Now they have a lot of acreage.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big difference.
And just the farming machinery. That's what
all of it.
Tim, our husband Tim, that was
Our
his
husband.
business. He had it's called Alliance Tractor. But there's a different machine, a different attachment to do everything.
Yes.
It's you want to pick just the daisies out of the corn rows. Here's an attachment for that.
Exactly. So big change.
Yeah.
Big change.
At one time we talked about having Kelly on to talk about this one, but librarians.
Card, catalog.
And I loved all that. When we would have to do some kind of research paper, you'd go to and it was cool in Kansas anyway, in Atchison, because we had Benedictine College. You could tell your parents you were going up to the college to do and you might for a while.
Maybe.
And then you'd go do something else.
Maybe.
But so you'd go through the card catalog and try to find all the books that had to do with whatever your paper was on. And then you'd get the books and then you'd go through and pull out information that you needed.
Notes.
Right.
Write
Yes,
notes
write your
and
notes.
Make sure you had everything documented as to where it came from.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the
Big
librarian, the librarians had to know the Dewey Decimal System.
Yep.
They had to know how to retrieve books, how to put them back on the shelves.
Yes.
Because if there was a mistake with the Dewey Decimal, even today, because I think they still have to reshelve books.
They do still use
doing that. If you get it in the wrong place, you're not going to find that sucker again because you don't know where it went.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Which is why the libraries always said, don't reshelf your book.
Yes.
Just leave it.
Put it on top of
we'll take care of it.
the case or whatever.
But yeah, card catalogs are gone.
I know.
And even actually, another thing in libraries, magazines and newspapers.
Yeah.
So I can remember at the high school, the newspaper, we used to get probably 4 different newspapers every morning. So you'd switch those out with the current one. They hung on a long rod.
On that long rod?
Yep.
That wooden rod, in a rack.
So you had to switch that out every morning that you were there and take out the cell circulars or whatever just so it would hang properly. And you don't. And then another one in the library used to be that librarian in the high school would cut out articles that were going to be researchable. JFK, let's just take that one. So every newspaper, most likely, back in the day, the librarian would cut those out. And then those were filed in a certain way, almost like a Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah.
So you could go and actually read the news article.
Uh-huh.
And it was a physical piece of paper, and it was a folder, and you pull the folder out, and you could unfold the newspaper clipping, and then you could read all of it.
Yeah.
And, of course, now none of that matters because you're going to do all that online. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had the little microfilm and the microfiche.
Oh, my gosh.
Do you remember using that in college?
Yeah. It was always backwards, but whatever.
It really was.
And I could have been me, but every time I put that in there, it was backwards.
Yeah, and you'd get going on that microfilm thing. And, and it's, I passed the year 1942 or whatever. I have to go back. And I guess learning used to be a lot more physical than it is today.
It was, exactly. A lot more work.
Yes. Okay, here's just a simple one. Gas station workers.
Oh.
Yeah. It used to be great. You'd pull up. I don't care what the weather was. They'd come running out to your car. I'll take $2 of regular, please. Yeah, because that's about.
And they'd check the oil.
They would do that.
That was a common thing.
And they'd wash your windshield.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So, we were lazy back then.
Tremendously. Yeah, those people aren't around.
Okay, here's one for you, because you and Shelley both did this. I never did. Checkers.
Oh, yeah.
Like in a grocery store.
Yeah.
How's that changed?
Groceries, all of them. You got the self-checkout, which that one I was afraid of for a good 2 years. Now I'm a little more comfortable with it. But at the grocery store, of course, here, we don't have that. We have 2 grocery stores, and there's going to be a checker there for you. There's no self-checkout.
At one. At the other one, I won't mention names. There's one, there'll always be a checker there. The other one is hit and miss. But anyway, that's something else.
And a long line.
Yeah.
But we don't have that. But then you go other places and you're going to check yourself out, which is always, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. That is how it does. I can remember at one point working at a grocery store, you had to figure up the price of the produce on your own.
Oh.
So grapes were whatever, 79 cents a pound.
A pound.
You'd weigh it. It was 2 pounds. So you had to add that up in your head and then enter that into the cash register.
No wonder I didn't do that. I can't do math
kidding.
on demand.
I think people got deals from me all the time.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, screw it. Let's just call it
79
$1
cents.
a day.
Yeah.
Should have been 3. But oh, well, we did that by hand.
Yeah.
We did that in our head.
And just having to key in every single price.
Yes, it was. That's right.
And now it's just scan it.
Absolutely.
And you had to know how to count change.
You did.
Yep.
That was never a problem for me, but for some people it really
I'm just
was.
now learning how to do that. One of those math things that I just never. There was so much more.
Yeah.
You had to know.
You did.
Yeah. And did they even have the conveyor belts? Or did you have
Yes.
to? They did.
At one point they finally did.
Okay.
But not when they first started working
Yeah.
for Jack and Jill Grocery.
Yeah.
They didn't. But the customer always put their stuff up on there.
Yeah.
And then you would push it down. There was always somebody to bag your groceries.
Yes.
And carry them out.
And carry them out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I don't know. I
Paper
can't even
bags.
imagine when the last time was that somebody
Yeah.
said, "Do you want me to carry these out?" And we were probably the longer here as far as actual carryouts than most cities were. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, my. Let's see. We're going to do one more before we move on to that next part that I thought was funny. Any kind of health profession.
Oh, gosh.
How much that's changed.
Huge, because, okay, I have worked a lot of different jobs.
Yeah.
I realize as I say this. So I worked for a doctor's office. Everything was in a folder.
Yes.
And so you had to pull. Yep, it was all paper. You had to pull the folder, and you would pull for the morning patients.
Yes.
And put them all in a row, and then the nurse would grab that, call for that patient. They'd go back, doctor. She'd write everything in there, or the doctor would, whichever way. And then the office people had to refile them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then you didn't ever pull the afternoon until like late morning because you never knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But when you think about how much space that took,
Oh, my God.
huge amount. And they always had a basement. You had to have.
Right.
Because you had to keep all that stuff. People moved on, people died, whatever. So those always had to be taken down to the basement and filed alphabetically.
Oh, yeah.
Everything was alphabetical.
Another one of those things. If it's misfiled, you cannot
Can't find it.
Yep. I
Cannot
worked
find
in a couple dentist offices. Same thing. Everything was paper. And 2, when we were little, we had one doctor.
Yes.
We had our family doctor.
That was, yeah.
And the family doctor did everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. And now there's a specialist for every little thing.
Now, when I had, you remember when I had the mumps and I lost my hearing? They did send me to a specialist in Kansas City.
Okay.
It was obviously probably an ENT that I had to see.
Yeah.
But that was probably the first time, besides when I broke my arm and the surgeon had to come. Okay, I was ahead of my time.
You were a sick kid.
I was.
Yeah. And they did house calls.
Yes.
I remember
Can you
Dr.
imagine
Don
now?
coming to, I know.
Yeah.
We'd get sick at night and Mom or Dad would call our doctor.
And here he'd come.
And here he'd come with his little black bag.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and sometimes he would do what he could and then say, bring them in tomorrow.
Right.
Or whatever. And you could actually get in tomorrow.
Yeah, you could.
And now there's just a specialist for everything.
Yeah.
And
there
again,
is.
with all the technology, I think of nurses, as they're taking your vitals. It's all, and the bed that can weigh you to see if you're,
Yeah.
darn, ugh.
I know, right?
No, I will never have one of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many little gadget things now that, and they are a help to your health.
Yes. Into those that are needing to use them, the nurse or
yes,
whatever.
so much in that. The filing, the billing,
Oh, yeah. Billing.
Oh,
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So you'd send the statements out every month.
uh-huh.
And that took quite some time. And you actually folded the statement. Now, we did have I was thinking the printer that would date the matrix dots.
Oh.
Is it was before you actually had just a printer.
Okay.
Dot matrix. And so then you'd have to pull apart all the statements. You had to fold them up. You had to put them in there. You had a sponge to lick them. You didn't have to lick them yourself. But then you had to bundle them, and you had to get them down the post office and everything else.
Boy.
And now there's big companies that do all
that.
You don't
that.
do that within the office, but we did.
And I remember having to file my own insurance claims.
Oh my gosh, we did.
Oh, that was such a hassle.
What a nightmare about that.
So now they do all of that. Thank you, health profession, because what a mess now. All the different codes that they have to do. And Okay, so anyway, there's a few jobs that have changed over the years. I know there's a lot more. And so the next little part I wanted to do here.
I'm ready for this because you told me about it and I want to hear.
Yeah, so these are obsolete jobs.
Okay.
Jobs that don't exist anymore. But you wonder, really? Somebody had to do that? Yeah, somebody did have to do that at one time. So the first one I've got here is a leech collector.
Oh, gosh.
And a leech collector was responsible for retrieving the blood-sucking worms from their natural habitat for doctors to use. They still use these, I think, from time to time.
Yeah.
And it does help to release blood in swelling and whatever. I don't know what they're used for. I've never had it, thank goodness. Individuals with this job use the legs of animals or their own legs to lure leeches from creeks and rivers.
Gosh!
Can you imagine?
No!
And I bet they got paid pennies for doing that.
God.
To sit. And I looked at a picture of this, and one was like this poor horse laying on its side with its legs in this creek and all these leeches attaching. And ew, what a job that one can be.
Okay, I'm going to skip. I'm not going to apply for that job.
Okay.
No.
Good thing it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, this one, and it was just the name of this one that I thought that drew my attention. Knocker uppers. Knocker uppers.
You better explain that one real quick.
Knocker uppers, or knock-ups, were responsible for waking people up by making loud noises before electronic alarm clocks existed. People in the 1800s would hire these individuals to shoot peas at their windows or tap on the glass using a long pole to wake them up.
So they knocked to get you up.
Yes.
A knocker-upper.
A knocker-upper.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And we all know where everybody's minds went when I first...
Instantly.
Yeah. And I don't know if that would wake me up. Somebody...
I don't know, but...
knocking on my window or something.
If the person inside never woke up?
I don't know. Now, could they sue you if they were late for work? Today they would do that.
They could,
but, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, a knocker-upper. Oh, my gosh.
Let's see. A hush shopkeeper. During Prohibition in the United States, when it was illegal to buy, sell, or consume alcohol, a hush shopkeeper sold alcohol discreetly to customers they trusted. They got their name from keeping their illegal business secret. While people earned money as hush shopkeepers, their position was non-compliant with federal law.
Sure it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Interesting.
Oh.
All right. Let's do just a couple more because the time anymore just
I know.
goes
and we haven't been together for 2 weeks.
I know.
And so we're just
Yep. Okay, a pin setter. And I think we've talked about this because this is what our Grandpa Minton used to do at the bowling alley.
Yeah.
Before bowling alleys had automatic pin setup and retrieval machines, pin setters removed and replaced pins between each turn.
Yeah.
These individuals waited at the end of the lanes and reset the pins manually.
Yes, they did. Yeah, he did.
Yep.
And, of course, Grammy worked there as well at the food counter. And that woman could make a pie, and she could cut it in 5 slices evenly. And they were always the same size.
Oh, such good food. I love going up there because we would visit like in the summertime, and Mom or Dad or whoever would just drop us off at the bowling alley, and we'd hang out there. Yeah. Always good food.
But we never had to be a pin setter.
No, we never did. Ew.
Ew?
Oh, how about a rat catcher?
Oh.
Rat catchers were typically young people who chased and captured rats during the Victorian era. These catchers were common during this time because cities like London were infested with rats, commonly known as carriers of various diseases. Rat catchers caught and killed rats with poison or wooden sticks to eradicate them from the streets.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
Look.
Of course, funny story. So we both worked for the city, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Our summer jobs worked for the city parks. I can remember a man that he would come with moles, and the head of the parks department would pay him $1 or something a mole. Pretty soon, the director realized, because he said, "Now get rid of it." This guy, he was coming back with the same mole.
Oh my golly!
Finally, the park director said, "I think this is enough. We don't need to catch any more moles."
I've paid for that same mole 10 times now.
You made $10 off of me.
Oh, okay. We've got more of those. We can bring some more out another time. But yeah, we've talked and talked, but we've both mentioned several times. Yeah,
we're good at talking.
We haven't done this for a couple weeks, so yeah.
Okay, I got to say one thing.
Okay.
Happy birthday tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Sue's birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday.
As the time we're recording.
At the time we're recording, tomorrow is your birthday. When this comes out, it has been already your birthday.
It has been. It has been.
We'll never get good at that.
I know. But thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I sat here and talked to Shan for about 15 minutes before I looked up on the wall, and they had hung this banner that said "Happy Birthday." Yeah. Took me forever to notice it, but thank you. Yes. And they're taking me out to dinner at a really good restaurant tonight.
Yes.
So looking forward to that.
There we go.
Yes.
That's it?
Yeah.
Now, don't forget, though.
Yeah.
We have stickers for people.
Yes, we do. I haven't checked our Gmail for a while.
Well,
I have to do that.
Did it just go out yet? I don't know.
It did.
So
I
folks,
think it just went out.
We would love to hear from you. If you have some ideas of what we should be talking about, send us that idea. And on our email, which is unavoidableaging@gmail.com. And when you do send us an email, you'll have to give us your mailing address so we can mail you an Unavoidable Adventures in Aging sticker.
Yes.
Because they're gorgeous.
They are. Shan designed them.
There you go. You can always find us at unavoidable.life. That's our website. You can listen on Podbean. That's where we upload to. And then you can also hear us on Apple Podcast, Podcast Addict, Spotify, YouTube. We're just everywhere.
Yes, we are.
There we go.
We are. Hey.
Takeaway?
Takeaways.
We didn't do takeaways.
No, we didn't. What's a good
about
takeaway?
Jobs?
Yeah, about jobs.
I've had a lot of them, and that's okay.
Yeah, me too. I really have. Yeah, because in between the time that I graduated with my teaching degree and actually started teaching, I worked for dentists. I worked for the Secretary of State in Nebraska. What else did I do? Worked at Miller and Payne.
Miller and Payne?
Yep. And that's a department store for people not from Nebraska. Yeah. So I've had a lot of different experiences and really enjoyed them. And
I was okay with them. There we go.
It helps you learn a lot about a lot of different things.
And my takeaway. And then I'm also happy I'm not a leech collector.
Oh, or a rat collector.
No,
either of those. I think I could a knocker-upper, then I'd have to be up before everybody else. Yeah, I could be a good nighter. Okay, lights out, everybody go to sleep.
Did the knocker-upper have a knocker-upper?
Good question. No idea.
Everyone's going to wonder.
That's right.
Okay.
Enjoy your life.
Okay.
Laugh at yourself, which is easy for us to do.
It is.
And remember,
you're not knucking futz. You're just aging. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Till next time.